I looked at him and I was just filled with envy. I thought to myself, must be nice to have this uninterrupted time to yourself. Meanwhile, I was breastfeeding one of my children and I had just managed to get the other one off me. As I thought that, I was like, oh, I shouldn't judge him. He's finally getting a few moments for himself to relax. What's so bad? He's such a great dad. I tried to talk myself out of my envy, but this envy is signaling something and I must go toward it. Welcome to Partners in Sublime, where we explore the teachings of depth psychology and Vedic philosophy to achieve the highest levels of personal growth and self-actualization. Join me as we tap into the unconscious for intuitive guidance and creative direction. I'm your host, Shagun Chopra. Let's begin. Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 10 of Partners in Sublime. Today, we're going to talk about positivity and a very specific brand of it, toxic positivity. I'm going to go into what toxic positivity is, how it hurts us, and how to save ourselves from falling into the positivity trap. And no, this episode is not going to be all dark and glum, but I hope that it will pave the path for you to experience true fulfillment and meaning, and not just superficial joy. Let's start by clarifying something fundamental. There is no such thing as a positive or a negative emotion. All emotions have their purpose and they serve an important function in our psyche, but it is we as society that have decided that some functions deserve good standing and are positive, and other functions are not so great and negative. So for today's show, I will focus on what positive and negative emotions are when we think about them in common language. Let's start with the positive ones. Positive emotions are what the whole world is encouraging us to have. It's joy, happiness, peace, contentment, gratitude, love, excitement, hope. All the things that make us feel so uplifted and so good. These are the emotions that we're told to cultivate, we're told to focus on, we're told to amplify. Anytime we're not being these things, we're being negative. Negative emotions are the ones we're taught to minimize, transcend, just get over, or entirely eliminate. These include anger, fear, sadness, shame, grief, anxiety, frustration, and so on. Now, every now and then, one of the negative emotions becomes popular. For instance, anxiety. What we used to call worry or overthinking is just now called anxiety, and people are owning up to the fact that they have anxiety. Anxiety was always common and prevalent, but now it's just become a little bit more socially acceptable. So these negative emotions, there's a lot of talk going on about them. People say that these emotions lower our vibration, hurt our relationships, make us attract bad things, or just prove that we're doing something wrong. Like life is meant to be all happy and hunky-dory. So we're messing some part up for us to even be feeling these negative emotions. But the thing is, these negative emotions are not negative at all. They serve very important functions in our psyche. And if we ignore them, it's at our own peril. They're not character flaws. They're messengers that are carrying vital information. And we owe it to them to pay attention to them. Let's look at all these so-called negative emotions one by one. It starts with anger. Anger indicates to us that something that's important to us has been violated, that our boundary has been crossed, or we have been wronged in some way. And without anger, we would not have the ability to go confront someone, to ask for what we rightfully deserve, or to set a boundary where one is really needed. Losing anger is like losing your spine. You'd have no ability to stand up to someone or stand up for what you believe is right. You also won't be able to say no. Very common problem in people pleasers. They can't say no because they have decided to disown their anger. Next is sadness. Sadness indicates to us that something that is meaningful to us has been lost. It's what makes us long for something that used to be within reach and is not anymore. It signifies to us that something was held dear, that something had meaning to us, and its loss is felt physically, painfully in the body. Sadness initiates the grieving process. Without sadness, we would not be able to begin crying, begin moving on, and begin closing a chapter of life so that a new chapter can open. If we were not allowed to be sad, we would just stay in that space. We would just carry dead weight of things that are no longer there. Next, let's talk about fear. And I've mentioned about fear in past episodes too. Fear is our survival instinct. It serves such an important function in our life. It alerts us when something is about to threaten our very existence, not in the future, but right here, right now, in the present moment. Fear warns us of danger. It helps us assess risk. It helps us decide and gives us the right physiological response to protect ourselves should we actually be in danger. If you had no fear, you would constantly walk into situations that'll harm you. Think about it. You might cross the road when the traffic is coming at you because you're not afraid to be hit by a vehicle. Next is envy, and envy is a good one. Envy reveals what we really desire. It shows us something that we admire in others that we wish we had ourselves. If you go around and you had no envy, you would have no ability to look at things that other people have, to look at circumstances that other people are in, and use that to infer your own deepest wants and wishes. Without envy, you would lose touch with your deepest longings. Next is jealousy. We're always told, don't be jealous, be satisfied with what you got. And some people think envy and jealousy are the same thing, but envy is wanting something that someone else has. And jealousy is wanting something from them for you. Jealousy makes you feel afraid of losing what you already have. It indicates some sort of insecurity in your relationship or in some aspect of your life that you might need to address or repair in order to start feeling more secure again. If you didn't have jealousy, you might find your partner drifting away, getting interested in other people, basically constructing a whole life for themselves that excludes you and feel nothing at all. You would miss all the warning signs of repairing the relationship before it's too late. Next is guilt. And I hear a lot of people, especially from Catholic backgrounds, talk about being made to feel so guilty in church. But it's not limited to Catholicism. Almost every religion, every values-based teaching teaches us that if you didn't do this and you did that instead, you should feel guilty. So if we take some of the dogma of guilt aside, guilt can actually be very useful. Whatever our values are, guilt tells us that our action did not align with our values. That's why we feel bad afterwards. It helps us course correct. It helps us live with more integrity. It helps us create a life where we don't have a dissonance between what we value and what we do. Now, of course, what we value should come from deep within ourselves, shouldn't be handed down to us as some kind of religious dogma or don't question it teaching. But the principle remains the same. Guilt is valuable because it helps us maintain our moral compass. Last one on the list I have is shame. Shame is such a powerful emotion and considered very negative in the world. You shouldn't feel ashamed of doing this or that. But shame tells us when we've done something that we don't feel meets the standards of society, that if other people were to hear about it, that we would feel that we have been ostracized from our own community. It keeps us together, connected with people and society that we care about. Without shame, we might not fit in anywhere, and we might just become so isolated that there is no tribe or person or place to which we belong. I remember being told that if you are afraid that what you're about to do might show up on the front page of New York Times tomorrow and it would make you feel ashamed, then just don't do it. That's our gut check. The shame that we experience thinking about that, not even doing it, just thinking about it, is our signal that, hey, you're about to go and violate the trust that society has placed in you. So that was our list of negative emotions. As you can see, each of them is important. It serves a function. If you didn't have that, trust me, you would earn yourself some sort of psychological label that will pathologize you. Now, just to share an example from my own life, of course, I've experienced all these negative emotions at many different times of life, but one that came to my mind, and it was such a silly one that I thought it was worth sharing. After I'd had both my kids, and they still are, and at that time they were even younger, I was sitting on the couch and my husband was sitting across on the other couch from me, and he was totally absorbed in a book that he was reading. And I looked at him and I was just filled with envy. I thought to myself, must be nice to have this uninterrupted time to yourself. Meanwhile, I was breastfeeding one of my children and I had just managed to get the other one off me. As I thought that, I was like, oh, I shouldn't judge him. He's finally getting a few moments for himself to relax. What's so bad? He's such a great dad. I tried to talk myself out of my envy. But I had started doing Jungian work and shadow work at that point, and I realized, no, this envy is signaling something, and I must go toward it. And as I explored it, I realized that it had been so long that I had been able to sit down and read peacefully. A lot of the books I had were hardcover or paperbacks, and once I would put the kids to bed and dim the lights, even if I was awake in bed for a little bit longer, I wouldn't necessarily get up to go turn the light on in another room, find a book to read. So it was a part of my life that I was really missing. And that signal that, oh, my husband has that, I want to have that, was important to me in helping me change things a bit. I bought a night reading light. I got over the fact that some books must be read in hard copy and got their Kindle versions. And I made little tweaks here and there so I could make time for reading in my day again. And I would have missed out on all this information if I had ignored my envy. So you can see it would have been just as acceptable to be like, it's okay, let him have a quiet moment. But no, an emotion is coming alive in you. It is your responsibility to go toward it and learn something about yourself. And your life will definitely be better for it. So if negative emotions are so great and so useful, why do we run away from them? And I try to think about why it happens. And some of it is just the broad culture that we're part of. But I think it's a little bit deeper. I remember when I was growing up, sometimes in the late 90s, a lot of popular psychology books kept coming out that were focused on positive psychology. This movement was started essentially as a response to what psychology had been up until that point, which was very pathologizing. I'm talking about times when people were put in mental asylums and they were shocked and they were not even treated humanely just because something was off about the way their psyche was organized. So when we started to look at people with this very pathologizing lens, something had to appear to counter that. And that movement was positive psychology. And it was such a breath of fresh air. I myself remember reading tons of pop psychology books that were focused on positive psychology, think positive, thoughts matter, when I was in middle school, high school, up until college, and maybe even some early professional years. And I think these books really resonated with the audience, and these messages really resonated with the audience because so many of us grew up with parents who, not intentionally, but inadvertently, end up being critical or distant, and their voice becomes a voice inside our head. Normally, we call this our inner critic. And whatever we do, this thing is constantly offering commentary on how this could have been better, how we're so worthless, how we can't seem to get it right, or no one loves us, or no one cares about us, and so on. Everyone's got their own flavor of what their inner critic is like. So if you grew up and your dominant narrative is this constant internal criticism, positive psychology is a breath of fresh air. I would totally understand, and it's something I did myself, the need to let go of that negative, critical voice and adopt this cheerleader voice. You can do it. You create your world. You are amazing. You can do anything you set your eyes on, and so on. With books like The Secret, we thought, yes, we just have to think the right things, never entertain any negative thought, and it will manifest in our life accordingly. And while I agree that there is a process of manifestation that works in the universe, because we are co-creating this shared cosmic dream in which we're all living. There is a mechanism to that process, and that mechanism does not involve rejecting everything that is negative. Yes, we want to hold our vision with absolute clarity, because unless we do, it's not going to get transpired. Our actions will not take us toward it. But it's one thing to hold our vision with clarity and another thing to reject everything negative. And I think that's the pitfall we're falling into. At the slightest feeling of a negative emotion, we feel like, oh, we're failing ourselves. That's not how manifestation works. We're lowering our vibrations. We're doing something wrong. And snip this little negative thought in the bud so that we can say all positive, all Zen, all the time. But we know from Jungian psychology that what we suppress or look away from does not disappear. It simply falls below conscious awareness and becomes part of our shadow. And it lives in the shadow, and there it grows and accumulates psychic energy that comes out in ways when we least expect it. We may lose our cool and blow up on someone. We may suddenly act out of character. We may make conscious plans that our unconscious self then sabotages. All this is happening because there are parts of you that you disown, and they went to the shadow. And the mechanism of the shadow is in place because fundamentally we're spiritual beings. We have a higher self, and that higher self wants to direct our life toward our purpose. So anything that we think doesn't serve us, but our higher self thinks does, will stay. It's going to stay, it's going to grow, and your unconscious self will constantly try to bring it to your attention. So with that background, I think now is a good time to transition to our coaching session for the day. This one is about Maya. Maya is a recent immigrant in the US. She moved from India to a big city in the US, and she believes that all the resources are now available to her, but somehow she can't seem to get started. So listen on, and I will see you on the other side. What's most uncertain in life right now?
Sort of everything. Firstly, being an immigrant in another country comes with a lot of uncertainty around political scenarios, changing immigration policies, so planning your life around that. But that's secondary. The foremost is professional career. What do you do? Like if somebody told me 15 years down the line, you'll still be so clueless, I would be like, definitely not. Good. Yeah. You know, when you're younger, you look at 30-year-olds and they feel like their life is so sorted. I'm like, how can I be more confused?
Okay. Yeah. If you had to guess, like, why do you think your career feels uncertain to you right now? Is it that you tried something and it doesn't feel quite right, or you tried different things and haven't found your thing?
I think one is that I've always been a generalist, but the world around us, and as you pivot, it requires certain kind of speciality. One is that. And second, everyone's just been using the word tech and AI so much that you feel like you just have to do it. And there's no other way to live this life without learning this whole thing and applying it to work or even maneuvering your career around this.
Yeah. As you were talking, I had this image pop into my mind of like just like a storm coming your way, like the AI storm. And you just have to surrender to it and spin up in it.
Yes, exactly. The way skills are changing. Even, when we were growing up, we went through the social media changes and a lot of jobs coming in then, and now there's a new set of careers coming in. So it's the only thing is that change is constant and you have to keep upskilling. There is no definite answer. So that's a little unnerving to understand how to integrate that into your spectrum of work and how to go deep into it. And so far, so good. But how do you define the next 10 years or the next 15 years of your career trajectory, essentially?
Yeah. One thing I hear pretty loudly in your description of what's going on is this external is driving everything, and you're just having to catch up or adapt.
Respond. Yeah.
Yeah. If I could just like pause the external world, one of those movies where everything stops and it's just like one character can see. So if I
Yeah.
did that
Yeah.
to the world, then what would you do? Like, let's say you just have time, take a breath. It will not unpause until you're ready. Uh, what would
Mhm.
you just want to do on your own with your time? With
Living a very slow life, I would focus on my breathing. I would like to focus on health. I'd like to be present more, not think about the future. I think travel more, indulge in more experiences, and this is thinking you have all the money in the world to just splurge. You know. So, and I think I would, if it was just up to me, I would feel very, in a strange way, very content with what I have and just, enjoying everything that comes my way without the worries of tomorrow.
yeah. So then what is putting pressure on you to not be content and present, but essentially keep up with whatever the world is throwing at you?
That's a great question. I think it's the debate of, life should be this versus what life is versus how do you actually want it to be. So when I put, firstly, I think movement, moving from India to another country and being in a place which, I've moved to a city which is highly ambitious. And you're surrounded by people who are very ambitious, and you're no longer in a protected cocoon. So letting go of family, of your comfort, of your loved ones, of the known, automatically pushes you to think a little bit more about life and where it's heading. And then if you're pushed into an environment where you're surrounded by people, you're constantly seeking something more or dissatisfied with where they are, or they have these deep ambitions, it rubs off on you. I feel like my life should be an active and conscious step into the direction where I want it to be, so that at least 10 years from now, I can look back and think that I actively designed this versus, oh no, look, so much time has passed and I'm standing somewhere that seems a bit directionless.
I really like the fact that you want to do this consciously instead of just like life taking its hold on you. And I think so much of coaching is about that, right? To get to the heart of like what you really want and to consciously choose. Two things that you mentioned. I'm going to put the global political climate aside for a second just so I can focus on them. The two things that you mentioned that are causing this turmoil in you is you want to decide consciously, but a part of you feels that I moved so far away from family in India. I must have something to show for it because all the things that used to give my life meaning, like my family, my community, the familiar comfort, your cocoon, is not there. So, like, what am I doing this for if I have nothing to show for it? And the other thing was just like the culture around you right now in a big driven city. Everybody's chasing something and everybody's dissatisfied. So you're like, is something wrong with me? Maybe I should be too. Maybe I should be seeking more.
I mean, I could look at it negatively or I could look at it positively. The other side of me thinks that when I was back home, there's so much distraction in a given day. I mean, you've lived in India, there's just so much noise around you in a particular household, so many people that you don't actually have time to think about a lot of things. They just go by. The day goes by surrounded by people you love. That you don't sit down and actively think that, Maya, as an individual, what do you really want from life, or where do you want to head? And when I moved, I realized that that noise reduced over time. And then it was literally the voice of my own head. What is it that it's saying? When you're not distracted and when you've got opportunity to be in the heart of a place that's so busy and has everything to offer, whether it's classes, whether it's jobs, whether it's trying new hobbies or travel, how do you make the most out of that environment positively when you have everything that you need around you to be able to design a successful life for yourself? Then what should that success look like? And what are some of the things that you need to do in a day to be able to achieve that? And I think that pressure that I've given myself is something that makes it a little hard to cope.
Yeah, it's like all resources are available at my command. I can't, I mean, not to say that you were doing that in India, but you can't blame the busyness and the constraints of
Exactly.
life anymore.
Exactly.
You're like, I'm
Precisely.
here.
You have no one to blame.
Yeah.
What do you do when you have no one to blame? It's like
Yeah.
that.
It's all you. It's very empowering and very scary at the same time, because
Yes.
you're like, I'm at the helm of my ship, and like, I decide if it, crashes into an iceberg or
Yeah.
like makes it through the ocean really nice and enjoys the journey.
Yeah.
You mentioned the voice in your head. In a given day, as you're thinking about your career and life, like, what are some things this voice in your head tells you?
One is just like everybody else, health goals. When you're there's nobody to blame, then why have you not achieved what you wanted to achieve? And why are you not actively changing your days? Why do they look the same? If you want a different outcome, then you need to take different actions in a day. So why have you not achieved those? There's no one to blame. And then let's say, if I say I'm so deeply passionate about giving back to to people or the society, then why have you not taken up any volunteering roles with the time that you have? Um, then it's like investments. What have you done with them? Have you actively achieved those goals? So when I put down some of the things that have been on top of my mind, I feel like I've been thinking, but moving really slowly. There's no excuse for why I've not been able to do it.
What is essentially happening is your unconscious self is resisting the agenda that you have laid out for your life. And I think you have compassion for yourself in the sense that, you had to move across the ocean, you had to make all these changes, so you gave yourself time. But I think it's getting to a point where you're like, okay, I can't keep having this conversation with myself anymore, where I tell myself, hey, Maya, this is what you need to do. And then a day goes by, another day goes by, and either nothing gets done or the progress is so slow that you're like, I know I've been more enthused than this in the past about what I had to do.
Yeah.
So what am I doing here? Yeah.
Right.
So if we had to get to like the bottom of like what in your unconscious is resisting this, do you have any guesses about what that might be? Or it's like totally...
Yes, I do. And this
Okay.
is also something that has happened very lately because I keep repeating this to myself. It's the minute I want to do something, I have a lot of baggage from past that comes in. I feel like just because you've not been able to achieve let's say, your health goals before, you won't be able to do them again this year. Let's say, I want to study for GMAT, for example. It was almost like, oh, you've picked up books at least for 3 years, but you never actually got down to studying them. And or you want to pick up a new hobby, but essentially you're so scared of going to a new place and trying them out. So it's like a past package that plays in every day. And I'm not able to sort of disconnect from that. This is what I've figured could be one of the reasons that lead to inaction. Growing up, I was very introverted as a child. And I feel like somewhere down the line that stopped me, like literally I was the kid in the classroom who never raised their hand when for anything or talk to anyone. So I feel like I was already so inhibited, and maybe at that age there are already voices that are telling you to stop.
So tell me a little bit about your mom and dad and how they see you, you think.
I think the perceptions have definitely changed over the years. Now, I think they have deep respect for the individual I've become and how I manage myself, whether it's coming from a family where women essentially didn't work. I'm financially independent, living away from home, managing things pretty well. So I think they respect all of that, but it didn't come easy. There was a lot of hand holding that had to be done, a lot of learning for them as well, because it's a different environment, it's a different language that they don't understand. So I think it was a collective effort, but of course we've grown. It wasn't always like this, and like they weren't always so encouraging. But I mean, that was them before, and that's a different them now, I would say.
Yeah. And it's strange how our actual parents, change and adapt. And when we look at
Yeah.
them now, we were like, my parents are encouraging. So, this critic voice is not coming from them. But if you go way, way, way back, probably from even
Yeah.
times you don't remember, like ages 0 to 3, our parents can be with us
Yeah.
in a way then that they can keep changing, but we keep that part of them inside us. The
Oh,
exact
100%. I think one of the things that my dad used to always say is don't talk unnecessarily. And it was just a thing he would say, don't talk loudly, don't talk a lot, and don't talk unnecessarily. You don't talk in cars, you shouldn't talk in a room. And because of that, and South Asian women in general tend to speak lesser. So there was so much of unlearning to be able to find your voice back in the society or to be able to explicitly speak your mind.
So these type of voices, they don't just live in our head independently. They're called complexes. Um, Complexes are just like your own experiences and memories and emotions clustered together, but they're held in place by an emotion. So there's no point long term arguing with this voice. But if you go at the heart of it and you realize what emotion is keeping it together and you confront that emotion, this will start to loosen its grip a little bit. It won't be an overnight change. Complexes take time to overcome, but it starts by looking at what emotion is in them. So the exercise that I'm suggesting we do, we'll try to look at this emotion and see if
Okay.
that changes anything for
Sure.
you. Okay.
Okay.
So if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes and
Okay.
I'll guide you through the rest of it. First, I just want you to relax your body, relax your mind, get to a calm, comfortable place where there's room to examine what might be hidden beneath the surface of your own mind. And then I'd like you to remember any instance that you can think of when your father told you not to talk much, not to make yourself more prominent or present in a room. The time when you learn to make yourself small and to essentially doubt yourself. Let that emotion come in your body. You can keep your eyes closed, but tell me how you're feeling.
I'm able to replay it, but essentially I'm not affected by it as much.
Try to access the faintest part of it that you can. Doesn't have to be a full-blown, emotional reaction as you would have possibly as a young girl.
I think the feeling would have been for that moment as being scared.
Scared.
Like, yeah, because if you speak up, something bad happens.
Yeah. Where do you feel this fear in your body?
It's in my chest.
If you were to give this fear some image or symbol, what might it be?
Maybe like a hammer.
A hammer. Keep paying attention to this hammer and invite it inside your body. Look at it and try to have a dialogue with it. The first question you might want to ask is, what are you here for?
I'm here to stop you. And then it's more like stop me from what? And then there were so many things, but they're all blur now because essentially it was like a symbol to stop me from having a voice or listening to myself. The hammer saying that I'm here to stop you, but it's also me telling the hammer that it's okay, you didn't know any better and I forgive you. So it's sort of that sort of a conversation.
Yeah, you have a lot of compassion for this hammer. Keep engaging in this dialogue. Maybe you can ask the hammer, like, why did you want to stop me?
Yeah, but I think the answer to all of those things is that I didn't know better. So I think, you know, and I think because I'm able to see that the hammer didn't know better, um, I'm able to see, in that moment when I was younger, the hammer was big and I was small. But now I'm so big and the hammer so little that it's almost irrelevant because I've grown and I've outgrown the hammer actually.
It no longer has that power of
Yes.
you. Yeah. So if you're this big and this hammer is so small, it's like a toy hammer, then why does it still keep showing up? Ask the hammer what
think
is
we-
to want from me.
I think in a strange way, it is still a part of me. So I can say it's irrelevant, but it's still sort of guides the first voice that comes in. Let's say if I want to speak in a situation, um, let's say in a meeting, the hammer does show up as the first thought that no, you shouldn't. But it's like a conscious work to always put it aside and fight it and then, let my voice. So it's like the first fear that comes in whenever I want to do something new, something uncertain, something that makes me uncomfortable. And it's like always that little work of uh, pushing that hammer aside and finding my voice and taking my chances.
What do you actually need this hammer to say? Ask the hammer to tell you what you would like to hear instead.
More than hearing, I think I would want the hammer to let me go, like the release that, like I want that first thought to be positive and, nurturing and compassionate and encouraging. And I don't want that to be the second voice. Like it shouldn't be the second voice. It should be the first voice that comes in.
There's a lot of pressure on your mind to always have to be positive.
Yes.
Yeah. You can make your way out of this visualization by feeling your surroundings, taking a deep breath, and thanking your hammer, opening your eyes. Going into this, I thought that this hammer will overpower you a little bit to start. And then you will be able to dialogue with it and, sort of come to a compromise of sorts, using very loose language here. But what was surprising was you had a pretty good handle on the hammer. It did not overpower you. You're like, I know why you came. I have compassion for you. I forgive you. Very perfect. Um, what I noticed was on the other side, like the pressure on you is not from the hammer. The pressure on you is to always have to be positive. You're just disgusted that this hammer is even inside you. It's not like, oh, what's the hammer saying? Is it going to stop me? It's like, oh, I know how to put this hammer away. Why is it even there in the first place? Like, I know how to put it in its place, but I just want it gone. I want to be positive most of the time, all the time.
Yeah.
And when we give into the negative voice, that's like a problem because it's such a one-sided view, but it's equally problematic when we are always seeking for a positive voice, a positive mood, because life is, it's like a balance of emotions. Like when one goes up, the other goes up
The
too.
word of that. That's crazy, right? Like, because you're right. You're spot on. Like, I think the whole pressure is to always be positive, that you don't allow yourself to feel what you're really feeling because you're supposed to, like, okay, something bad has happened. You still stay positive because life is supposed to be all butterflies and flowers.
What's keeping you stuck right now is not your inner critic, because you got a handle on it. I think what's keeping you stuck is you're judging yourself for not being positive enough.
I never thought of it this way. So honestly, it's so new to me as a concept that I really have to internalize it.
Your familiarity with your critic was just so there in the visualization. Like you knew it, showed up easily. You were so much bigger than it. Like you could talk to it. Like it's like you've done that. You've done that part. And now you've gone a little bit more on the other way. It's like, I just don't want this hammer to exist. I want that positivity all the time.
Yeah, which is true.
Mhm.
That's how I am, honestly. Like, I need 100% positivity all the time. And because one negative thing can really spiral me down and, make my entire day just go bad. Like, I can't snap out of it until the next morning. So I need that positivity to channelize me through and through.
Yeah. Yeah. One phrase is what you resist persists. Like I can't have negativity in my life. Guess what gets stronger? The negativity. So How might your life be different if you allowed yourself a little bit of negativity? Negativity being this loose word that represents all the things you don't want to feel.
I think I would speak my mind more often for sure. I think the positivity also means you don't want to deal with conflicts. You always want to be nice to people. You want to be likable. And you don't like any sort of negativity around you because I'm not even good at dealing with it. So I think that way I'm not strong. That when negative conflicts come up, like I switch off, I don't know how to communicate in those situations. So rather than working on how to resolve conflict, I'd rather not have conflict. But that also jeopardizes your growth or stops you from achieving your full potential.
It's like you have a closet and you're only wearing clothes from one side of it, and you're not really like integrating the other side because you think like, okay, that's too negative.
Yeah, because what happens is when you're too positive, you're also like compassionate. Like this hammer could very well be killing me. And I would be like, oh, I understand, hammer, you need to kill me. I completely relate to you, not putting me first because you try not to be agitated. Like I don't like negative situations because they make me uncomfortable. I was living in the moment for so long and being content because of the hyper positivity that I would like in my life. But I think being a little uncomfortable and attracting some less desirable stages so that I'm able to at least understand my own true identity. Right now, maybe like I'm here for the convenience of everyone and everything and, whatever suits the world. But I really want to know what suits me and, what is it that I truly want and how can I push myself in that direction?
Yeah, it's so true. And fundamentally, our emotions, positive or negative, these are just labels, but there are clues to what we want. My prediction would be that if you allowed yourself to embrace the other emotions, that the resistance will start to melt away. Like let yourself have a cry if you're really missing India, or let yourself get angry at whoever deserves that anger. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for listening to that session. It is so wonderful when someone opens up their inner world to me and to the rest of you who are watching or listening, and gives you an opportunity to see what's going on and what is something that you might be doing in your own life. I feel like Maya's case is such a good example of well-intentioned personal growth work eventually becoming limiting. So let's break this down. Maya came in thinking that she has all these goals and all these opportunities and resources, but she can't seem to take much action. So maybe there is some negative voice inside her. But as we did the visualization, we realized that Maya had developed such a positive-only persona that all the negative emotions were being pushed away in her shadow. And it is in resisting these negative emotions that she felt stuck. Now, it wasn't always like this for her. When she was growing up, she experienced her father as someone who was not very encouraging of her, who asked her to keep quiet, and it made her feel somewhat worthless. So she did all this work. So she did not talk to herself the way her father did. And no matter how much work we do, some of these complexes, they just stay with us. And all we can do is become aware of them and notice when they're in the driver's seat versus not. But after doing all this work, she replaced her persona A, which was of the quiet kid who did not want to ruffle any feathers, with persona B of this grown adult who is very positive and overcomes all obstacles by staying that way. Persona B, huge improvement, right, over persona A. Like, who wants to live like that, where you constantly feel like you're not worthy, you don't belong in the room, that you have to make yourself small to survive? So persona B feels like a massive improvement. It can initially feel very empowering. But as Maya is discovering now, she has left the environment where that persona was created. It was created to overcome some of the barriers of the family and culture that she was around. But now that she's in a new place, Her higher self is asking her to discover, who are you really? Not when you're trying to fit in, but who are you really? And it's tempting to take whatever is prevalent in the city you're in or what people around you are doing and make that your new persona. But her higher self is quietly resisting that and saying, no, no, don't just go join the rat race. Like, take a minute, feel what you're feeling, and it will direct you to where your life is meant to go. But Maya is carrying the persona that she only wants to feel positive things. So she's not able to entertain all these signals and messages that are coming loud and clear from her unconscious because she thinks it will ruin her day, ruin her life. And yes, this persona has helped her so much, but it's the load that she's carrying. She needs to let go of this load in order to embrace who she really is. And it can feel so scary to do that, but that is what she needs to do. She has to break away from the relentless positivity to embrace her anger, embrace her sadness, embrace her hopelessness, or anything negative that may be arising for her. And in the process of doing so, she's going to learn about herself. She may disappoint some people who have hopes for her. She may set boundaries in relationships that she has so far ignored. But bit by bit, she will get closer to the truest version of herself. What is this truest version? It's the reason your soul was born. And your soul decided, I'm going to take human form so I can fulfill this purpose in the world. That is your dharma. And the soul will absolutely try to nudge you toward it. And it's our responsibility to pay attention. Let's say you fly to a different city to attend a business meeting. You're probably not going to want to fly back without attending that meeting. It would be quite the waste of a trip. In the same way, your soul has decided to take this particular body, this particular circumstances, so it can live its dharma in this lifetime. And it's not going to feel good if it doesn't get to do that. So the soul, the higher self, will do everything to get your attention so you can make the most of the reason you're here for. So as Maya continues her personal development journey, her work is not going to be so much about silencing that inner critic. Maybe that critic will pop up from time to time, but as you saw in the visualization, she has a pretty good handle on the critic. She is not afraid of it. She's not triggered by it. She knows why it was created and has compassion for all the circumstances that led up to it. But her work now lies in checking this new persona of hyperpositivity and accepting that that is just a mask, that that's not the real her. As she does this, there may be some difficulties, there may be some conflict, but I promise it will be worth it. Her story reminds me of the Greek myth of Persephone. She was this maiden who lived an easy life in the meadow picking flowers. And then she gets pulled into the underworld, the dark side, what you would call the shadow side. And once she sees her underworld and she comes back to where she used to be, she's not an innocent maiden anymore. She has been changed and transformed and has acquired qualities that make her different. She's now powerful and sovereign because she has integrated both these realms and not confined herself to one or the other. I am not suggesting that Maya spend all her time in the underworld. That would be creating the opposite situation of what she has today. But in order to live a whole life, Maya needs to bring all her shadow elements up to the surface bit by bit. In the fairy tale of Beauty and Beast, the beast represents the shadow of the beauty, the wild, ugly, unacceptable parts that beauty must integrate in order to feel whole. And just like beauty, Maya needs to embrace her raw desires, her raw anger, her conflicts in order to emerge whole. Goddess Kali in Hindu mythology was the same. She had this dark side to her that she's actually worshipped for, because we need that nurturing, positive goddess presence, but we also need someone whose rage is so terrifying that it can destroy evil and prevent it from recreating and multiplying. So there are so many tales and myths that tell us that we can't live this one-sided life. And every time we feel stuck in our situation, it's always a good idea to look at what mythology has to offer to our problem. Speaking of mythology, I'm reminded of a Jungian analyst, Clarissa. In her book, Women Who Run with the Wolves, she explores the wild women archetype. She digs stories of women who were wild, who did not fit into the pleasant, agreeable persona that today's women are pressured into occupying. It's not just women, it's kind of across the board, but it's far more prevalent in women. She has this quote in her book, and I will read that. When a ship is in harbor and moored, it is safe. There can be no doubt. But that is not what great ships are built for. So Maya can stick to her pleasant, positive persona, but that's not what she's built for. She's built to lead this integrated whole life, which requires her to embrace her wildness and anything that she may have cast in the shadow. Ian said something that is very pertinent here. He said, I'd rather be whole than good. And in the beginning, people might be like, no, I'd rather be a good person. But try being good for a long time, and you will realize how dissatisfied you get. And what we're all really looking for is to have the whole expanse of the human experience available to us. And that is what would make us whole. Not disowning our negative parts, but embracing all of us, the good, the bad, the light, the dark, the pleasant, and the ugly. Word of caution, what I'm not saying is that you should indulge every emotion and every impulse, and the minute you feel the slightest anger, you just start spewing on it on other people and start ruminating. No, examining an emotion consciously is not the same as letting that emotion get in the driver's seat and drive your car forever and forever until it is wrecked and you are left to pick up the pieces. I'm simply saying, do not deny these parts of you and make them visible. Embrace them, and they will teach you something instead of resisting them, pushing them away, and giving them so much more energy in the shadow where they erupt in a way that your conscious self does not intend. So I hope today's episode inspired you to look at your life, to recognize where you're chasing false ideals of positivity, to embrace wholeness, not perfection, not this fake perfect ideal, and to let your emotions, all of them, guide you toward your higher purpose. That's all I have for today. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you for being my partner in Sublime today. I hope you enjoyed diving into the unconscious with me. To ask a question or get coached on the show, visit shagunchopra.com/ask or click the link below. See you next time.